Right. So this last Friday, due to the Major League Baseball playoffs,
Mm-hmm.
um, they had the rights to the Friday night slot on Fox. So SmackDown was on FS1, which, um, of course, isn't going to have as many viewers. So the viewership is obviously going to go down, which it always does when it's on FS1. And that's no fault of WWE or FS1. It's just FS1 isn't a necessarily like the cable, like basic cable channel or whatever. Um, but anyway, it's on a different channel. People might not pay attention, or might not see it, and plus it's so anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What's up, Jay Ford?
hey, what's up, Jay Ford? Um, with that being said, with Rampage, which also is on Friday nights, Tony Khan decided that he was gonna set his goal and say that he was gonna beat WWE in the ratings, and they were gonna beat SmackDown by having a buy-in show that was aired on YouTube, um, that featured uh, Daniel Bryan and I don't know what other matches were there. I think CM Punk had a match on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no,
CM Punk wrestled. Was it on?
let me see.
It might have been on Rampage, bro.
It was, yeah, because he doesn't. It was on Rampage
Yeah.
because Punk doesn't wrestle on Dynamite too much.
Yep.
And they had a reason for it, but yeah. So Tony Khan, I mean, obviously Tony Khan's doing. He set out to beat the ratings of SmackDown this week, and it's just like I don't know, do it every week or something. But like just the way that obviously it's smart to take advantage of Raw or SmackDown going on FS1. You have that better chance of uh, beating them in the ratings show.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. Kind of just oh man, I don't know. He's just a little, I don't know, a little weasel. And I'm not sure where I was going with this because
You,
I'm
you,
starting
you-
to
you're going
do
to
too many
the
subplots.
competition between AEW and WWE.
Oh yeah, with Khan, I think Khan really wants to start this war. I mean, obviously he's been,
Well, Reigns
um,
has thrown some words too.
yes, and
Uh,
McMahon, I think it was McMahon, um, didn't like how he did it, how Reigns said it or whatever. But he was glad that he was glad that he did. It was some kind of like contradictory, oh that's bad, but I love it kind of thing. And yeah, I mean I want to see more of it.
Don't ever
Um,
do that again. But good job.
right.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
Punk. J Force says Punk sucks. Yeah, it says how's y'all night going? We're at a tail end of our podcast, man. We're talking about AEW versus SmackDown, and I gotta say, I can read a little bit of a quote from Reigns from Forbes.
mhm.
He said, on a personal level, it doesn't do anything for me. Reigns said about Punk. That's not going to elevate me at all. He's older now. I haven't really seen a full match. I've seen a clip or two, and to me, a step or two has been lost. Then also, he got his ass whooped in the UFC. 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 I'm like, wait a minute, AFC West? I don't think any I don't think anybody really believes someone 200 pounds soaking wet with no explosive bone in their body could ever really do anything to me. I'm 6'3", 265, a legitimate athlete who can throw some weight around and has been on the gridiron at the highest level. D1, all ACC. I probably would have maintained in the NFL if my health issues didn't happen when I was 22 years old. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, I'll throw him and pretty much the rest of that roster out the club, no problem. They're just little brothers, you know? Whew.
Mm-hmm. It's nice to see that. That's one thing I want is just, you know, I want something to be said. And Reigns also said that, if no one else feels like they have to do it, um, that's fine. But he's not worried about it. Like, because I mean, Reigns is like through the roof on his confidence in himself right now.
Mm-hmm.
He claims that he is the best in the business. And it's hard. I mean, it's hard to disagree, but it's hard. Sometimes it's kind of like, well, it's not definite just because there's so many different styles of wrestlers. Um, but I just like that there's some sort of pushback. He's not going to take it. Reigns had also said, um,
Oh,
oh, sorry,
did we lose
I'm
Big
trying.
Pete?
I'm trying. No, I was getting ready to read a quote, but I just wanted to make sure it wasn't the same quote that you just read. Um, so this is what it says. Here's what the tribal chief said, as far as whether he considers AEW real competitor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and now he says, no, I mean, not for me personally. And that's where I was like, wait, is this the same quote? This is one of those subjects that are very subjective, and there's a lot of passion and tribalism that really sways and creates an unbiased opinion. But I can only speak from my perspective. I'm one of those guys who will compete at anything. Like I bet you I can eat that cookie faster. I want to be the best at anything that I choose to do. We pull up on lawnmowers. We cut the yard in half. I'm going to beat you. My side will look better than yours. So me, I don't see the real competition with AEW because I think their fan base legitimately is a hardcore fan base. So there's like a ceiling and a built-in ground to that viewership. WWE is trying to connect with everyone. We're trying to connect with the mainstream. We're trying to pull in the casual fan. We're trying to engage the new viewer while also servicing our hardcore fan base and give them compelling stories to fill them as well. I don't know if I've said it before, when the audience is probably the biggest character in your show, that's strange to me. You'll hear it all the time, the reviews and the comparisons. I think because they are the new kids on the block, they're the cool kids in town. I guess because of how premature and how novel it kind of still is, I think they're still being babied by these hardcore wrestling fans, which is fine. That's great. I don't think anybody going to ever, especially from a performance standpoint, say, "Oh no, there's more opportunities out there." That sucks. So it's not a bad thing. It's a great thing for professional wrestling. It's just a weird argument because there's so much bias and there's so much. I'm on this side and I'm not going to open my mind to the other side, and it goes both ways. As far as competition, not to me. There might be some other people on our roster who maybe think they need to dig deep and get better as a performer and what they do out there at the art form. But there's nobody in the whole world, any other promotion in the W, or sorry, there's nobody in the whole world, any other promotion, or in the WWE. I'm better at this art form than anyone else, and I stand on that. That's the totality of it. I'm not just talking about, oh, his spots are so good and he counters real well. That's that stuff don't mean anything to me. When you tally it all up, nobody touches me in the business.
Well, respect.
So
Respect. I disagree. I'll be the one. I'll touch you, Robin Reigns. Oh,
well,
that sounds bad.
there's no
Uh
one else saying anything.
oh no, it's but that's the thing. if he says anything, is that kind of giving more light to AEW? Is that kind of roping in the casual fan who's more likely going to read something about Roman Reigns than they're about AEW? You know, does that still like? Well, let me check this AEW. I think AEW is shooting themselves in the foot by having the super kick party. You know that just. And it's like you don't have to hire everyone that's been released, but then again, it's like you also you want all those guys who definitely put in a lot of work, and a lot
Exactly.
of blood, sweat, and tears. You want those guys to be to have a job, man, to be hired, and the more opportunity there is out there, the better. You know,
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
will I do I agree with some of them? No. Do I like some of them? Definitely not. But at the same time, it's like, hey, if this is what they love to do, then having more opportunity for them to do it, and more places for them to do it, and more chances for them to do it. That's it's like I don't think any of us can argue with that. As much shit as we're talking about wrestlers, it's like on the other hand, it's like, hey, if this is what you love, then absolutely, it's better for us to have more options than
Oh, hell yeah.
WWE, which is proven to be a little bit on the tyrannical side.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Tiredness,
But I don't.
Tyrannosaurus
I don't
E.
want to. I don't want. I just don't want people to like. I don't want to hear these guys. They go to another company. I don't want the extra. I left there because blah blah blah. Or just talk shit about the place that if it wasn't for them, where would you be in this career right now? Like that kind of thing. And that's where like the only person we've heard that really from that that publicly has been Punk. Um,
Well, I
Adam
mean,
Cole, Bryan, they had nothing bad to say.
first of
Uh,
all, when WWE was a party of one in the wrestling,
mhm, yeah.
uh, just at large,
Mhm.
yeah, man, come on, that's it's just the way they go about it. It's not personal, it's business, it's purely business, and just listening to stories of a lot of wrestlers who left WWE, and then the
Mhm.
ones who retired from WWE, it's like it wasn't necessarily the greatest place to work. And
Right.
just because we're used to having like two shows every week doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily mean that that the wrestlers should. I'm trying to say, I'm really trying to be cognizant of not saying superstar.
Mhm.
Uh, I think the wrestlers have been overused with WWE, and they beat their bodies up and they get fired. Like they're just in like pieces. It's a very machine like
Right.
entity, WWE, and AEW is definitely trying to change that. With that said, they do have a little bit of that NWO thing going on with the Young Bucks, or it's just
Mhm.
the whole elite being the elite and all that brotherhood, which on one
Oh yeah.
hand is great, but on the other hand, it's like you are eventually going to get a locker room. I assume so, just based on previous from history. You're going to have a locker room that's going to be divided eventually,
Right.
and I don't know what they're doing about that. I don't know like too much. I try not to know too much
Mhm.
about their backstage stuff and their personal lives and shit because I'm not interested. I want to watch the show. Like, give me a good show. Like, I don't care if you guys are all brothers behind closed doors, if you suck each other's dicks. Like, I don't give a damn. Like, I don't care about any of that shit. All I care about is the show. And if you're trying to pass off your brotherhood into the show, and try to inject some of your, I mean, just I don't like Young Bucks. How's that?
That's fine with me.
Yeah.
I'm right with you.
I but then again, I don't want them to not have a place to work because obviously they've been in the business long enough for me to understand that these guys
Yeah,
are,
I mean, they
you
do
know
their
what I mean?
job. They do their
Yeah,
job. That's the thing. Like
yeah.
I won't take anything away. They're just not my style.
Yes, yes, and
But
I don't like what they do for the believability of wrestling. It's those kicks, bro. But then they're not the only ones. But those kicks,
right.
like I'm gonna lose my mind with the freaking
But
kicks.
the thing is though is that it's like their signature thing. If it wasn't for the
Yeah,
reaction to it when they did it in Ring of Honor, you know, that wouldn't be happening today.
yeah.
So
Well,
it's that's what made them. It's like, but we're not seeing Daniel Bryan doing the yes chant, and he doesn't have to. The crowd does it anyway.
that's right.
But
How
still,
freaking that's
you
like
know.
boss level shit right there, man. That's like,
Oh yeah, yeah. You guys do it for me. Like,
yeah. Everyone is yes, and
that's
he's
kind of
like,
like
I ain't gotta do
kind of like
shit.
kind of like Bray Wyatt. You know, his entrance is nothing. His lights go off, and everybody else just shines the light for him. And you know, but no, it's like, but it's just like it's just that repetition. And it's like that's their signature thing, and like they have to do it. Like,
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess so. But what a shitty thing to pick as a signature. Like
oh,
here's the thing. I this could go in a lot of different for a lot of different I guess talent today. And I understand that it's kind of silly to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway, which is the if like even like a I, I'd say um even the roster WWE's roster up until like Undertaker retired may may really be pissed off, or maybe a little earlier, I guess. Well, never mind. It's a new age. I'm just old. But all I'm trying to say right now is how I'm just an older wrestling fan. I just think of the old school locker room. Thinking of people like Doctor Death. Thinking of people like Haku and even Stone Cold and just like all these like just tough
mhm.
ass dudes. Like if uh, young bucks would get beaten up to the point where they would learn not to use kicks like that because they're just completely ruining like their believability for the other wrestlers. What moves they have to do. All of a sudden, kicks are like Shawn Michaels probably. Although I don't know what the fuck he's doing in NXT with the whole like he's just letting
His,
them free willy kick too. So
his
it's like
little, well, not as much, but enough.
yeah, it's enough to where that is a style. But ultimately, my bitching aside, uh, so FS1, SmackDown being on FS1 versus competing versus AW Rampage,
Yeah,
uh, that was a hell of a time to pick a fight. as as Tony Khan.
yeah. I
Like I
mean,
would pick a fight on a show that's like right after a pay per view, or maybe a season start, which I think that's what he did with the SmackDown last week. No, when did SmackDown season start?
not this last week, the week before.
Okay, so the week before, which is when he
Yeah.
asked for the fight. Okay, so that
Right.
that's a
Yeah,
legit.
because they had announced. Well, they announced that Friday night that next week SmackDown is going to be on FS1, and we're going to have a what they call the supersized SmackDown,
Mm.
which was 2.5 hours. So it went from 8 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., which was going into a half hour of Rampage. So they were going to go.
That's where they.
They're originally going to go head to head for the first time ever for 30 minutes from 10 p.m. to 10:30 p.m.
Yeah, yeah, and that's
Then,
why they had Punk open up Rampage.
well, that was on. Well, so Tony Khan went and the step further and announced that
He's gonna win.
let's see, he says they announced that he can't wait for Rampage to beat SmackDown. Um, this led WB to announce that the last 30 minutes of SmackDown was going to be commercial free. Now that's not a cheap thing
Oh,
to be commercial free. I mean that costs a lot of money.
yeah.
So now that made Tony so kind of Tony Khan put out the words, WWE put in the action first, the first set of action.
Oof.
Um,
Oof.
Now what they did, because what SmackDown did was through that 2.5 hours to get people to watch that to try and get the little extra ratings because they're not going to be on Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so now Tony decides to add in a buy-in show for Rampage. It's like a pre-show that was on YouTube where they had Brian Danielson versus Minoru Suzuki, and the
Mm.
YouTube show started at 9. So from 9 to 10, it's SmackDown versus the YouTube channel. As Tony hopes to have AEW fans watch this and then tune straight into Rampage and not watch SmackDown. Um, and was it? Let's see. Was at some point okay, and then the first okay, and then Tony Khan went on, and the first 30 minutes of Rampage was commercial free. So now both shows had commercial free half hour, the beginning half hour of Rampage and the last half hour of SmackDown
But
for
WWE
both.
can afford to be commercial free because it's SmackDown is usually a 2 hour show.
And so can Tony Khan. That's
Well,
the
Tony
thing.
Khan, okay, okay,
He's got
okay.
the, he's got the money. That's
Well,
what's
he's
making
got the
this
money, but WWE's like, yeah, well, we're gonna throw this in, this extra half hour
right,
that is anything extra on top of what we're already gonna
right,
make, and
right,
versus Tony Khan,
right,
who's like, well, I'm gonna take a hit here. I mean, cool, good for you. He's putting his mouth
right,
uh
right.
right in his checkbook. Is that even a saying?
And his father does that. Like Tony's father invested $100 million to start All Elite. Like that's crazy.
Well, I mean that's like okay. Well, he definitely sold it to his father, and I mean I'm not talking shit about Tony Khan. I'm just kind of trying to figure out.
It's just kind of funny just to see this young kid. Like he's got the balls to go up against Vince, but Vince is going to get as much money out of you as possible. He's going to make you spend as much money
That's
and
right.
have you not see any increase in anything really.
That's right.
And like the whole week, like I was hearing from people that I know, like you know, why would I go and watch YouTube? Like why would I go to YouTube? But I mean, people did though. Like that's the thing. Like
Yeah, it's like what do you
they got
mean?
decent.
Like most people are cutting the cable, man. We
Right.
talked about this. Watch our
Yep.
if you have questions about this, watch our show on ratings. We put this to sleep already. Like these guys are fighting a battle that's like uh, uh it's like my pinky's bigger than yours. Like it's not even a dick size contest.
Whoa,
It-
whoa.
oh, sorry, penis.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I try to emphasize the gravity of it.
Sorry.
So how was on YouTube? Do you know their viewership on YouTube then?
um. Yes, their peak viewership was 98,000,
Oh, okay.
but with YouTube again, it's rewatchable. So it's I mean, but so it's like a couple days like they're still like counting like how many views they've had and all that, which that means nothing now, in my opinion,
No.
because it's way bad. But um, the buy-in show for tonight's episode of Rampage just finished airing on YouTube. The peak viewership for the show was 98,000. They had Tay Conti versus Santana Garrett, Bobby Fish versus Lee Moriarty, and Brian Danielson versus Minoru Suzuki. Danielson versus Suzuki is probably awesome. I haven't watched it yet, but
But do you think that also goes like to show you what the understanding of the fan is between AEW and WWE? Because I mean, WWE can present itself as not really giving a shit about
right.
a storyline or a feud. They're just gonna like put it out there. But then they also put storylines and feuds that are, storylines that are good.
Mm-hmm.
And then AEW, it's like there's this like notion, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but it feels like it's more about the match, like how
Mm-hmm.
good a match is. Whereas, it's like I feel like the storyline is what sells the match. Like you could have the
Right.
shittiest match,
Hmm.
a
Oh,
showcase,
yeah.
or you could have the shittiest match, a showcase by Doink the Clown, and still, and still tell a story. Like if you don't have a good story, you can tell a story through a match. If you don't have
Hmm.
if you're having a match, like I guess for me, having a match, the way I understand it from AEW is how many cool moves, reversals, and shit like that, is happening, and it's of course telling a story through the match, and I guess that's how I would say, how I would judge a match. It's like, are they telling a good story, cool story through the match? But I don't
Right.
care about like they don't have to like literally like leave their feet to have a great match in that sense.
Right.
And with Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, I don't know that much about Mr. Suzuki,
Right.
but I know his brother Kawasaki is not happy about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know anything about that. See, I've seen a lot of Suzuki recently, just because he's been around. He's been on AEW a couple times, and then
Oh, dude, I was talking about the motorcycles.
um,
Sorry,
oh,
Honda, Kawasaki, Suzuki. I don't know much about Mr. Suzuki.
oh, wait, whatever. And then he was on the GCW, and
Hmm.
you know, Minoru Suzuki versus Joey Janela. Like you hear that, you're like, no, that's like, I mean, maybe not because if you don't know Joey Janela, but I'm like, I don't know, this isn't gonna be. I'm not sure if this is gonna be that good of a match. It was a great freaking match. I was totally invested in watching that on GCW.
Oh, awesome,
Oh,
dude.
yeah, so it's just like that storytelling. Um, but anyway, there was they had I can't find it, but they had the the head-to-head ratings overall. Oh, there we go. Um, so the 2.5 hour SmackDown drew an average of 793,000 viewers, which was down from last week's 2.03 million. So they lost 1.6.
Mm,
No, no, 1.2 million, which is expected to go from Fox to FSY. Usually they usually average about 2 million on SmackDown, and then about close to average about 1 million when they go to FS1. So that's about a little bit average, a little bit lower viewers. And then this is on the other hand, Rampage drew 549,000. This is up from last week's 466,000. So they went up 103,000, or yeah, 103,000. Um, Rampage viewership increased because it's weekly. This week's episode was live, while the past few episodes were pre-taped. That makes
mm.
sense. Um, yeah, and then at the time, the 18 to 49 demo ratings weren't available, but who cares? Um, Whatever. I mean, they're still. I mean, they're making a splash, but it's just fun right now to see that they're acknowledging each other in reacting ways. If they, I mean, but it's like again, it's just like trying to you know beat someone up when they just got done fighting it's kind of like the 1996 King of the Ring. Yeah, yes, you, you get to the at the end and you got just three dead guys or two dead guys in the ring because they're fighting their third match, and then someone comes down and gets put into the match and they're fresh. Like I don't know, and it's smart on AEW, but is it really? I don't know. And again, with J Force, CM Punk sucks. He's not really. I mean, he's not drawing anything significantly that's increasing viewerships and anything like that.
I think he's
Um,
his purposes, or at least what maybe what he signed on where he thinks he's doing is to rub off talent. The glorified fluffer.
Well, it better be pretty damn good if it's 7 years worth of fluffing it's deep inside him. I don't know. Just I mean, like whatever. I mean, he's doing what he's doing,
Oh, just hearing
but
the
it's just
words
like,
deep inside and fluffing in the same sentence.
you know,
Eesh.
um. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that I know already that are tired of CM Punk, and he said that he's gonna be on every Dynamite, and he has been,
Yeah.
not necessarily fighting, because they rather him fight on Rampage because it gets less views than Dynamite. So
Mm.
they're putting him on. They're having his matches on Rampage to try and increase the viewership of that show.
Yeah.
um, Now another cool thing that just happened um, recently after Dynamite. Yeah, it was after Dynamite. It went off air. So Max Caster, um, he's the kid that raps.
Mm-hmm.
He's tag team with the Acclaimed. He came out, and I'm trying to see if I can find quote for
Well, what do you
quote.
his rap about AEW?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can't find the full quote, but it says, "We're trying to get live tonight, but Tony Khan won't book us on Dynamite. I'm tired of you always hating. We'll beat you just like we beat NXT in the ratings." And then he goes off and says like how he's a better rapper than Top Dollar, and so they're mentioning people from WWE, and it's just like it's getting a little bit more personal now, but it was more directed towards Tony Khan than anything. But they slip in the NXT and the Top Dollar, and but it was more about Tony Khan not booking them, and that could be real heat too because he's been in trouble with the company
Mm.
because they cut him off. So I don't know if that was a real kind of thing, but
It's a work of
like
a work of
like
a
like
work.
that was a shoot or whatever. But anyway, it's cool to get like these little references and so. But McMahon's not about the throwing little jabs here and there, especially on Raw and SmackDown. Um, as far as their competition, but it would be nice to have
He's a haymaker.
something. I don't know. Well, all in all, wrestling is it's good. It's a good time. Like I'll say to myself sometimes like with FTR or the Revival, whatever. Like I'll say, man, I miss them. Like, and then like someone was like, dude, you're watching them right now. Like, appreciate that you're able to watch them, regardless if they're in WWE or not. Like, I kind of like I kind of like realized it was like self realization of like, man, I got to get out my little out of my little bubble. Even though I'm not like I've known about other wrestling, but I never really watched much of other wrestling. As far as I don't know, it's different because I say that now, but then I'm like, well, no, because I've watched a lot of different wrestling over the last year, specifically at least. Um, but it's just having the open mind of seeing these people who I've seen on WWE for so many years, these last like 6 years, and now seeing them somewhere else. It's still kind of weird, but I still have to like still appreciate that they're doing their thing, and I still enjoy watching them wrestle. So
It is. I mean, yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time to be a wrestling fan
yeah,
again.
there's a lot of new wrestlers, a lot of young kids, and I had text you about um what's his name
Let me see what
uh
names.
from MLW.
Fatu,
Yeah,
Rikishi's brother or Rikishi's kid, Jacob.
yeah. Jacob Fatu. Man, that kid, oh, so good. So good.
Awesome.
He had like he had a match. It was the day before their big like because they're kind of like GCW a little bit where they had like these shows and like their pay per view kind of things, but they're just a lot smaller and just like straightforward. Um, but it was like the night before he had this match and it was against I can't remember the guy's name, but it was like a big guy versus like this small guy and like, it was good. They matched up really well as far as the storytelling. But then his finisher, man, he just freaking hopped from the. He was in the corner, and he jumps up on. He was on the second rope, and all of a sudden he just jumps from the second rope to the top rope, and then just a backflip somersault, moonsault, and it was like more than it was like almost it was at least three quarters of the way across the ring. It just lands on, and I was just like, man, like that move right there, like just like holy shit. Like I don't really say holy shit a lot, not as much as all these other fans do. But like that moment, I'm like, oh my god. And he has this character and he's got like the Umaga kind of thing. He like pays his respect. Like you can see it. You can see Umaga. You can see Yokozuna. You can see, like the head shrinkers. Like you can see like his family inside of him while he's like when he's wrestling. Because like Yokozuna did like or I guess like all the Samoans did like the little hand movement where like they like make the cross with their hand. Um, he does like this. He sticks his thumb out for like the spike, Umaga spike. He doesn't use the move, but he just does that during like while he's getting into the ring. He kind of has like his little and it's just part of his entrance. But
Dude,
man, I'm like instantly like after watching that match, and then I watched the championship match the next night. And I'm like, if this guy ever gets signed by WWE, and I think he'd be great there. I'm like that could be the guy right now that could beat Roman Reigns.
that would be interesting. I'm
Yeah,
watching his finishers. He's got a super kick as one of his moves.
which most Samoans do. Yeah, he's really and then Uso's kid brother. He's gonna be debuting on NXT um, coming up. Um, I just said he had a video. Um,
I guess what I'm trying to say with the super kick, man, is that they're selling it right for him.
right.
Yeah,
I mean, this guy. This fought too, man. He was champion for almost 2 years. Um, and like I heard the name. I never saw him really wrestle. But just seeing just two matches, I'm just like, oh man, like this guy is just yeah. Like put money
he's a
into this,
powerhouse, huh?
put money into this guy. Um, he's got a good manager. Um, kind of he's like a I don't know, like an army of can't remember what it's called. I don't know why. I started I don't retain a lot of uh, information.
There's a lot of wrestling
I
information
just I
out
just I
there,
just forget I just forget things.
especially, dude. There's a lot of information out there, especially with so much wrestling now. It's like you need to
Right.
know everybody's name, you need to know everybody's move, and it's like, oh, you're not a fan if you don't. It's like, give me a break, man. Good luck. Like I just I think at this point we're at a time in wrestling where we kind of pick the guys we like and we discover the guys that we didn't know about, and then we watch that for a while, and then we discover other ones, and
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's very much like, that they're fighting on ratings. We talked about it. It's like, meanwhile, it's different styles, different guys. I mean,
Right. Um.
it's a shift in that way as well. So
So.
AEW versus WWE, the fight is there. How much of it is on TV? Meh.
Right. Right. But I mean, I would still like there to be some or something. I mean, I'm happy enough that WB was reacting essentially, even if they don't put it out there that they were, they still made reactions towards, um, towards Tony Khan and what he was doing, and so yeah, the little war that they're having, you know, with their roster, yeah, they should be beating NXT, I guess, on paper of the caliber of roster of guys that they have. Um, I mean, half the guys now were already on NXT. So,
True. Well, with AEW, there's only one cautionary thing I'd like to mention here, and that is what my favorite philosopher says. There's two things we learn from history. One, we don't learn from history, and two, we don't learn from history. So, good old AEW, watch out for that NWO thing.
mhm. Oh yeah,
Because
no, it's all. I
if you're
mean,
going to go
yeah,
the way of WCW, don't repeat the
a
same
lot,
mistakes.
a lot of repeats going on. And it goes even out. It goes even to like uh, wrestling figures, which I learned. Well, I didn't realize, but they're making these AEW. They're making these. It was a special figurine of I don't know who it all was, but they're called Galubas, and they were based off of the early '90s um, WCW wrestling figures,
Mm.
um, like those like kind of big hard rubber, no moving body parts kind of action figures. They made a dope. That was actually pretty cool looking Cody Rhodes wrestling figure, but oh, there's just so many ties from AEW to WCW. It's not even funny. So I called it from like day one. The AEW was just WCW 2.0. I mean, geez, they're going to TBS for God's sake. Like, not even that. Like, geez, Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone.
It's
Yeah,
close. It's
yeah,
close.
yeah. I mean, it's only been 2 years, so yeah.
Well,
Um, yeah, I got nothing really.
oh, okay.
I was
Uh,
just gonna talk to
I'm trying to search for Galuba figurines, but I guess we could end it here. Um,
well,